What if I told you that the simple act of looking at something is far more powerful than you think? Imagine for a moment that reality itself is not fixed, not solid, not predetermined, but instead, waiting like unformed clay to be shaped by the one who observes it. You. Right now, in this very second, your awareness is not passive. It is not just noticing the world. It is sculpting it. The hidden power that you've carried with you all along is called the observer effect, and once you understand how it works, you'll never see your reality the same way again. Science has hinted at this for more than a century. Mystics have whispered about it for thousands of years. And in your own life, you've already experienced moments where it feels as if reality bent itself just for you. A conversation you were just thinking about suddenly happens. A person you needed shows up by coincidence. The same repeating numbers keep flashing across your screen. These aren't random. They're signals. And the deeper truth is that your focus, your conscious observation, is playing a direct role in creating them. But here's the catch. Most people are blind to this power. They go through life believing they are simply reacting to reality, as if the world out there is fixed and they have no choice but to deal with whatever shows up. They don't realize that their attention is like a spotlight in the quantum field, and wherever they shine it, reality begins to take form. If you focus on fear, you collapse possibilities that reinforce fear. If you focus on possibility, doors open that others never even notice. Think about it. How many times have you felt trapped in a loop? Same job, same arguments, same emotions, same cycles. You've probably wondered, why do I keep experiencing the same reality over and over? The truth is that your observation has been on autopilot. Your attention has been unconsciously collapsing the same probabilities again and again. And yet, the moment you wake up to this truth, the moment you become a conscious observer, everything changes. So let me ask you, what if reality has been waiting for you all along? What if the hidden key to transformation isn't out there in the world, but within your own awareness? Because here's the paradox. Reality is not separate from you. It responds to you. The universe is more like a mirror than a machine, showing you exactly what you expect, what you believe, what you fear, and what you desire. And every time you observe, you activate that mirror. This video is going to take you step by step into this mystery. First, we'll uncover the science behind the observer effect and how quantum physics shattered the old belief that reality is solid and objective. Then we'll explore how this shows up in your everyday life, in synchronicities, coincidences, and subtle signals that you've probably been overlooking. We'll talk about why most people stay unconscious observers, trapped in repetitive patterns, and how you can break free from them. You'll discover how your body responds to observation, how your energy field shifts, and how emotion plays a direct role in shaping what you see. And most importantly, I'll give you practical techniques to use the observer effect deliberately to collapse possibilities that align with your true desires. But before we dive into the mechanics, I want you to really sit with this. Reality is not fixed. Your past doesn't have to define your future. Your circumstances are not as solid as they seem. The moment you truly grasp that your observation changes everything, you'll begin to see life differently. You'll realize that every thought, every focus, every act of attention is not just passive awareness. It is creation in motion. So here's my invitation to you. As you listen to this journey, don't just treat it as theory. Notice your own experience while you're watching. Notice the thoughts that rise, the images that flicker in your mind, the feelings that stir in your body. Because that is the observer effect already at play. You're not just hearing words. You're shaping how these words ripple into your own reality. You're participating. By the end of this exploration, you'll understand why mystics say, as within, so without, why scientists discovered that the act of measuring reality changes it, and why your awareness is the single most powerful tool you've always had. And once you realize this, there's no going back. Because you'll finally see that reality isn't something that happens to you. It's something that happens through you. Now, let's begin with the science, the double-slit experiment, wave-particle duality, and why observation doesn't just record reality, it collapses it into being. To really understand how powerful the observer effect is, we need to start with the science. And the story begins with one of the most famous experiments in all of physics, the double-slit experiment. At first glance, it's a simple setup. Imagine firing tiny particles like electrons or photons through a barrier with two slits in it. On the other side, there's a screen that records where they land. If you've ever thrown pebbles into water, you've seen the ripples overlap to create interference patterns. Scientists expected something similar here, but what they discovered shook the very foundation of reality. When no one was watching, these particles didn't behave like particles at all. They behaved like waves. They went through both slits at the same time, creating a beautiful interference pattern on the screen, as if reality itself was in a state of probability. Many possibilities existing all at once. But the moment someone set up a device to observe which slit the particle went through, everything changed. The wave collapsed into a single outcome. The particle chose one path or the other, as if reality had solidified itself in response to being observed. Think about that for a moment. When there was no observation, reality stayed open, uncertain, fluid, full of possibilities. But the act of observing forced it into one specific form. This is not philosophy. This is not spirituality. This is physics. And yet the implications are so profound that they sound like something out of ancient mysticism. Observation collapses potential into reality. Now, scientists can debate for centuries what this really means. Some argue that consciousness itself is required to collapse the wave. Others suggest that the measuring device is enough. But here's the key takeaway for you. Reality is not fixed until it is observed. And that means your awareness plays a role far deeper than you've been led to believe. The double-slit experiment wasn't the only clue. Quantum physics is full of strange results. Particles that exist in multiple states at once until observed. Particles separated by light years that still respond instantly to each other's changes, as if reality ignores space and time altogether. These discoveries force scientists to admit that the universe is not made of solid objects but of probabilities, fields, and information. And the glue that holds it all together is observation. But let's make this less abstract. Imagine you walk into a room filled with strangers. You're nervous, so you focus on your fear of rejection. You start noticing closed-off body language, people who don't smile at you, the conversations you feel excluded from. Your observation collapses those possibilities, and your reality becomes one of discomfort. But if you walked into the same room believing you belong, expecting connection, you'd start noticing the person who smiles, the group that opens up, the laughter that invites you in. The room is the same. The people are the same. But what you observed changed everything about your experience. This is why the observer effect is not just a physics curiosity. It is the very mechanism of how you live your life. Every day, your focus is collapsing the infinite probabilities around you into the single thread of reality you call your experience. And the most extraordinary part? You've been doing it unconsciously. When you understand this, you begin to realize that the quantum world is not far away, hidden in labs or in equations. It's here, right now, in your thoughts, your perceptions, your focus. Every time you decide where to put your attention, you are essentially running your own double-slit experiment. You are choosing which version of reality comes alive for you. So the real question becomes, what are you choosing to observe? Are you collapsing the same old patterns, the same familiar loops of limitation, fear, and doubt? Or are you willing to hold your awareness in new ways long enough for new possibilities to solidify? The science shows us that the universe is more fluid, more responsive, more alive than we've been taught. But science alone doesn't give us the whole picture. To fully grasp the power of the observer effect, we need to step beyond the laboratory and into your lived experience. Those strange synchronicities, those little signs, those moments where reality feels like it's speaking directly to you. Because those are not accidents. They are proof that the observer is always shaping the observed. And that's exactly what we'll explore next. How the observer effect shows up in your daily life, in synchronicities, in micro-manifestations, and in the subtle signals that most people dismiss as coincidences. Now that you understand the science, let's bring it closer to home. Because while the double-slit experiment sounds like something out of a physics lab, you've already experienced the observer effect in your everyday life, probably more times than you realize. Think about the strange coincidences you've encountered. Maybe you were thinking about an old friend, and within hours, they called or messaged you. Or perhaps you had a song stuck in your head, and suddenly it played on the radio the moment you got in the car. We're quick to dismiss these moments as random chance. But what if they're not? What if they're glimpses of how your observation, your focused awareness, collapses potential into reality? Psychologists call it selective attention. Quantum physicists call it wave function collapse. Mystics call it manifestation. Different languages, same truth. Your focus determines what shows up in your world. Here's a simple example. Imagine you decide to buy a red car. Suddenly, it feels like the world is overflowing with red cars. Were they not there before? Of course they were. But until your mind started observing them, they weren't part of your reality. You literally tuned into a frequency that was always present, but hidden. Now scale that up. If focusing on something as trivial as a car changes your experience of reality, what happens when you focus on abundance, love, creativity, or opportunity? What happens when you stop observing lack, fear, and doubt and start observing possibility? The truth is, your life shifts. The quantum mirror reflects back not what you want, but what you consistently observe and believe. And this is where synchronicities come in. They are not just coincidences. They are signals. They are the universe showing you that what you are observing internally is beginning to echo externally. If you've ever set an intention and then noticed little winks from reality, like seeing repeating numbers or hearing the same phrase from multiple people, you've witnessed the observer effect in action. But here's the catch. Most people miss these signals. They're too busy observing their limitations, their fears, and their doubts. They collapse reality into the same old loops, then complain that nothing changes. Yet reality has been whispering to them all along. Reality has been trying to show them that new paths are possible, if only they would shift their observation. So how do you harness this consciously? The first step is awareness. Begin noticing what you are noticing. Sounds strange, but it's the key. Ask yourself, what am I choosing to observe today? Am I scanning for proof that life is hard, that people don't care, that opportunities are scarce? Or am I observing the signs of growth, the evidence of abundance, the synchronicities that confirm I am aligned? Let me give you an example. Imagine two people walking down the same street. One has been focusing all day on how unsafe the world feels. They notice the graffiti, the broken glass, the strangers who look intimidating. Their reality confirms their fear. The other person has been focusing on beauty and connection. They notice the flowers growing through the cracks, the kindness in a stranger's smile, the way sunlight paints the buildings. Their reality confirms their belief. The street is the same. The world is the same. But the observer creates two very different realities. Now, when synchronicities start to appear, don't brush them off. Treat them as feedback loops. They're proof that your observation is beginning to take root in the physical world. The more attention you give them, the stronger they become. In a sense, synchronicities are breadcrumbs, leading you toward the version of reality you've been calling in. And here's something most people don't realize. These synchronicities often begin small, like whispers. If you ignore them, they fade. But if you acknowledge them, if you pause and say, I see you, they multiply. Reality begins to respond louder, clearer, more unmistakably. It's as if the universe says, they're paying attention. Let's show them more. So the observer effect is not just about collapsing particles in a lab. It's about collapsing possibilities in your own life. Every thought, every belief, every focus is a measurement. And every measurement solidifies one timeline over another. This is why some people seem to live lives of endless synchronicity and flow, while others feel stuck and blocked. It's not luck. It's observation. The ones who live in flow have learned to consciously direct their focus, to observe what they want instead of what they fear. And this is where your real power begins. Because once you start noticing the connection between your inner observation and your outer reality, you can no longer pretend you're just a passive character in life's story. You realize you're also the observer, the one holding the pen, the one collapsing the possibilities into the page you're standing on. But awareness is just the beginning. The next step is transformation. If reality mirrors what you believe, then changing your observation changes your life. And in part 4, we'll explore exactly how to do that. How to shift your focus, reprogram your beliefs, and step into the version of reality that's been waiting for you all along. So far, we've uncovered that your observation shapes your reality, and synchronicities are proof that the universe is always reflecting you back to yourself. But here's the real challenge. If your reality is showing you something you don't like, it's not enough to just wish for it to be different. You have to change the observer. You have to shift your beliefs. Remember this, reality is a mirror. It doesn't give you what you want. It gives you what you believe. And belief is simply repeated observation. Thoughts you've looked at so many times they've become your truth. Let's break that down. If you constantly observe lack, thinking about how little money you have, how opportunities are scarce, how hard it is to get ahead, you train your mind to expect that. Your body feels the stress of it, and soon your environment mirrors it back. You see closed doors everywhere. Bills pile up. Nothing flows. On the other hand, if you begin to observe abundance, not as a fantasy but as a living frequency, you train your mind to expect it. You notice opportunities you used to miss. You take actions you used to avoid. And your environment reflects that new observation back to you. This is why transformation doesn't begin by forcing external change. It begins by shifting what you observe internally. Here's a practice you can try. The next time you face a limitation, pause and ask, what am I observing right now? If it's fear, scarcity, or doubt, shift the observation. Even if your outer circumstances don't change immediately, your inner focus begins to train reality differently. Over time, this becomes your new default. But shifting beliefs isn't just about affirmations. It's about coherence. Your mind, body, and emotions all need to align with the new observation. If you tell yourself, I am abundant, but your body feels fear and your heart feels unworthy, the universe picks up on the mixed signal. The observation collapses into confusion. But when your mind, body, and emotions say the same thing, you become like a laser beam. Focused, clear, powerful. This is why meditation, breath work, and visualization are so effective. They pull you out of autopilot and into conscious observation. They give you a chance to align your inner world so that your outer world can mirror it. Here's an analogy. Imagine your beliefs are like the lens of a camera. If the lens is cracked or dirty, the photo will always look distorted, no matter how beautiful the scene in front of you. Cleaning the lens doesn't change the world, it changes how the world is captured. Shifting your beliefs is cleaning your lens. Now, let's talk about resistance. Whenever you try to shift your beliefs, your old patterns will fight back. Your mind will tell you it's not working. Your body will feel uncomfortable. You'll want to give up. This is normal. It's simply the echo of the old observation trying to hold on. But if you persist, if you continue observing the new belief long enough, the old one loses power. Reality stops reflecting it. Think of it like tuning a radio. If you've been listening to one station your whole life, it feels strange to turn the dial. At first, the new station sounds faint, with static. But if you keep tuning, the signal gets stronger. Soon, the old station fades and the new one is clear. That's how belief transformation works. And here's the most empowering part. You don't need to figure out the how. You don't need to force reality to change. Your only job is to change what you observe and hold it consistently. The universe does the rest. Just like in the double-slit experiment, once the observation is made, reality organizes itself accordingly. So start small. Choose one area of your life where you've been observing limitation. Money, health, love, purpose. Then consciously shift your observation. Notice the signs, the synchronicities, the feedback that confirms your shift. Celebrate them, amplify them. The more you do, the faster the mirror reflects your new belief back to you. Transformation is not about becoming someone else. It's about observing yourself differently until reality has no choice but to agree. And this brings us to the next stage. Because once you begin shifting beliefs, something extraordinary happens. You start collapsing not just small synchronicities, but entire new versions of reality. You begin to sense that multiple timelines exist, and that your observation determines which one you walk into. In part 5, we'll explore this deeper. How timelines shift, why you sometimes feel like you're reliving loops, and how to consciously choose the reality you step into. Now that you understand how beliefs shape reality, let's zoom out even further. Because the mirror of reality doesn't just reflect your thoughts and emotions, it reflects your timeline. What I mean by that? Imagine that every possible version of your life already exists. Infinite versions of you are living out infinite possibilities. Wealthy you, lonely you, joyful you, sick you, successful you, forgotten you. These aren't fantasies. In quantum terms, they are probabilities, waves of potential waiting to collapse into reality. And the moment you observe, the moment you choose, one of these timelines becomes the one you walk into. This explains déjà vu. That eerie feeling you've lived something before isn't a glitch. It's your awareness brushing against another timeline where that event already happened. It also explains why life sometimes feels like a loop, why you keep repeating the same patterns, meeting the same kinds of people, facing the same struggles. It's not punishment. It's the mirror of reality holding you in the same timeline until you shift your observation. Think of it like this: timelines are like tracks on a record. If your belief system hasn't changed, the needle stays on the same groove, playing the same song over and over. You can't expect a new melody if the needle never moves. But the moment you shift your beliefs, the needle jumps to a new track. Suddenly, a new song plays. Suddenly, your life feels different. But here's the mystery. You've been shifting timelines your entire life without realizing it. Every time you make a new choice, every time you break an old pattern, every time you refuse to settle for less, you collapse into a new probability. That's why you're not the same person you were 5 years ago, or even 5 months ago. The real secret is learning to do this consciously. Let's talk about loops. A loop is when you notice the same theme repeating in your life. Different faces, different circumstances, same lesson. This is the universe telling you. Until you shift the observer, the mirror can only reflect the same thing. For example, maybe you keep attracting toxic relationships, or jobs that drain you, or financial struggles. The loop isn't random. It's feedback. It's showing you the timeline your beliefs are locked into. Breaking the loop requires stepping out of autopilot. Instead of asking, "Why does this keep happening to me?" ask, "What observation am I locked into that keeps calling this reality to me?" That question alone begins to shift the needle. Here's a practice you can try. When you catch yourself in a loop, pause and imagine parallel versions of you who are not stuck in it. Ask, what would that version of me observe differently? Maybe they notice abundance instead of lack, love instead of fear, courage instead of hesitation. Then try observing from their perspective. First, it feels like pretending, but if you stay with it long enough, it becomes your new frequency. And soon enough, reality reorganizes to match it. This is how people experience sudden breakthroughs, quantum leaps. One moment, nothing changes. The next, everything does. They didn't force the outer world. They shifted timelines. Here's another way to look at it. Think of life like a video game with infinite levels. Most people replay the same level over and over because they keep making the same moves. But the moment you play differently, take a risk, make a new choice, the game unlocks the next level. That's what timeline shifting feels like. But here's the catch. Conscious timeline shifting requires responsibility. You can't just wish for a better reality while observing lack and fear. You have to align your observation, your belief, your action, and your emotion. When they sync up, the shift happens naturally. And here's the beautiful part. You're not limited to one grand leap. You're shifting constantly, sometimes subtly, sometimes dramatically. Every thought is a steering wheel. Every choice is a timeline selector. Every observation is a doorway. So ask yourself right now, what timeline am I choosing in this moment? Am I choosing one of fear or one of trust? One of limitation or one of expansion? One of repeating loops or one of new possibilities? Because here's the truth. The quantum mirror never lies. It shows you exactly what you believe, exactly what you observe, exactly the timeline you're holding on to. And once you understand this, you can step into the driver's seat. In the next part, we'll dive into how to use this knowledge practically, how to align with the highest version of your reality, collapse limiting timelines, and anchor yourself into the one that reflects your greatest potential. Part 6 Script. Now that you see how timelines shift, the question becomes, how do you anchor yourself into the highest one? How do you stop bouncing between fear and faith, limitation and expansion, struggle and freedom, and finally stabilize in the version of reality that reflects your highest potential? The first step is awareness. You cannot change a mirror by trying to wipe the reflection. You can only change it by shifting what you bring to the mirror. That means noticing the beliefs, thoughts, and emotions you're carrying into each moment. Ask yourself daily, what am I observing right now? What is my focus feeding? Because wherever your focus goes, your timeline grows. The second step is alignment. Thoughts alone are not enough. You can't just repeat affirmations while your body and emotions are locked in fear. Alignment means your mind, heart, and actions are moving in the same direction. For example, if you want abundance, it's not enough to think abundant thoughts while acting from scarcity. You must feel abundance in your body, expect it in your heart, and take actions that reflect trust in it. That unified signal locks you into the timeline of abundance. The third step is embodiment. Reality doesn't change because you want it to, it changes because you become the version of yourself who already lives there. If you want to shift into a timeline of confidence, practice standing, walking, and speaking as though you already are confident. If you want love, embody love in the way you treat yourself and others. This isn't about faking, it's about tuning your entire being to the frequency of the timeline you choose. The fourth step is stability. Timelines are like rivers. At first, when you shift, the current feels wobbly. You might get pulled back toward old patterns. That's normal. The key is persistence. When you keep observing from the new perspective, the new timeline stabilizes. Eventually, the old one fades out of reach. And here's the real secret. Anchoring a higher timeline isn't about controlling everything. It's about surrender. It's about trusting that the mirror is always perfect, that what you see is always feedback, never punishment. Even challenges are reflections designed to reveal hidden beliefs, so you can shift them. When you see life this way, resistance dissolves. You stop fighting the mirror and start using it. Now, let's make it practical. Take a moment right now. Close your eyes and imagine the version of yourself already living your dream reality. Notice how they think, how they breathe, how they speak, how they feel about life. Don't just see them, step into them. Feel what it's like to already be them. That is the fastest way to shift. Not tomorrow, not someday, right now. Then, carry that state into your choices. If that version of you eats differently, start eating differently. If they speak more confidently, start speaking confidently. If they take bold action, take bold action. Every small alignment is like locking in a new frequency. The more you repeat it, the more your outer world bends to reflect it. And here's the paradox. When you finally embody the highest version of you, you realize the timeline was never out there waiting to be reached. It was always here, in this moment, waiting for your observation to call it forth. So let me leave you with this. Reality is not happening to you. It is happening through you. You are not a passive observer, you are a conscious creator. The quantum mirror is not separate from you. It is you. Every time you look into it, it faithfully shows you who you believe yourself to be. So choose wisely, choose boldly, choose consciously, because the mirror will never argue, never resist, never lie. It will only ever reflect the version of reality you decide to embody. And if you're watching this, it means you're ready. You've already stepped onto the path of conscious observation. The fact that you found this message proves you're tuning into the timeline where you awaken to your power. So take this moment as a signal. Step into the highest version of yourself. Anchor it, live it, and watch as the mirror of reality bends to reflect your greatest truth. Because the future is not written. The mirror is waiting, and the choice is yours. When we talk about the observer effect, many people imagine it as a passive process, simply watching reality unfold and letting things happen. But in truth, observation can be amplified. Just as a magnifying glass can focus scattered sunlight into a laser-like beam capable of igniting fire, your consciousness can concentrate its focus in a way that dramatically increases its impact on the quantum field. Amplification begins with clarity. The universe does not respond well to confusion or half-decisions. If your observation wavers, if one part of you desires abundance but another part fears it, you send mixed signals to the field. These signals cancel each other out, leaving you feeling stuck in the same loop. By contrast, when your observation is coherent and precise, the field receives a strong, unified instruction. That's when synchronicities appear, opportunities align, and manifestations accelerate. Think about how musicians practice resonance. When multiple singers hit the same note with perfect pitch, the sound doesn't just get louder. It becomes deeper, richer, and more powerful. Similarly, when your mind, heart, and body align on the same frequency of observation, your reality doesn't just shift slightly. It begins to reorganize itself at a structural level, supporting your chosen outcome with a kind of invisible momentum. One method to amplify observation is emotional coherence. Science has shown that emotions generate measurable electromagnetic fields around the body. When those emotions are coherent, such as gratitude, love, and awe, the field becomes ordered and extends outward in harmony. Observation carried through such emotions is far stronger than mental intention alone. That's why simply thinking positive thoughts often fails, but deeply feeling gratitude can create instant change. Another method is ritualized focus. Ancient cultures understood this principle intuitively. Whether through chanting, breathwork, or meditation, they created deliberate practices to hold their attention steady on one symbol, one vision, or one possibility. This constancy acted like an amplifier, keeping the field locked on the desired outcome long enough for reality to reorganize. Today, your ritual could be as simple as journaling each morning, visualizing before sleep, or practicing mindful breathing. Anything that keeps your observation from scattering across 1,000 competing thoughts. Most importantly, amplified observation doesn't just create isolated changes. It ripples outward. The people around you, the situations you enter, even the energy of a room can shift in response to your heightened awareness. In this sense, your observation is not private. It is a broadcast signal, and the more consistent and coherent it becomes, the more the external world tunes in to match your frequency. So the question is not whether you are observing. The question is how powerfully you are observing. Every single thought is a brushstroke on the canvas of your reality. But when you amplify your observation with clarity, emotion, and ritual, those brushstrokes stop being scattered doodles. They become a masterpiece in progress. One of the most extraordinary revelations of the observer effect is that your consciousness is not confined by the ordinary rules of space and time. The physical body lives within linear time. You wake up, you age, and the clock ticks forward. But the field you interact with when you observe operates outside of time. This is why moments of deep awareness often feel timeless, and why synchronicities appear to bend the usual sequence of cause and effect. Think about déjà vu. That eerie sensation that you've been here before is not a glitch in your brain. It's a glimpse of your consciousness brushing against a moment outside of linear sequence. Observation creates bridges between timelines, and sometimes your awareness slips through the cracks, touching multiple layers of possibility at once. In quantum physics, this is hinted at through the principle of non-locality. Particles separated by vast distances still respond to each other instantly, as though no space separates them at all. If reality itself behaves non-locally, then so does your observation. You don't need to be in a specific place at a specific time to influence the field. Your awareness already transcends those limits. Consider how this affects manifestation. Many people wait for the right moment or the right circumstances before they believe they can shift their reality. But in truth, there is no waiting. The field doesn't recognize tomorrow or yesterday. It only responds to now. When you fully grasp this, you stop postponing your power. You realize that every instant is equally capable of holding transformation, regardless of the external timeline. There's also a profound implication here for healing. Studies of remote healing show that intention sent across time and space can influence biological systems, even when the recipient is unaware. This suggests that observation is not limited by distance, and not even by temporal direction. Some researchers propose that consciousness can reach backward in time, rewriting how past experiences are encoded in the nervous system. This is why certain meditations or visualizations allow people to revisit painful memories and reprogram them, freeing themselves from trauma that once seemed permanent. To transcend space-time limitations in your own life, you must practice stepping out of the linear mindset. Instead of thinking in terms of, "I need 3 months to achieve this," shift your observation into the eternal now. The energy of this outcome already exists, and my awareness can meet it here. By training yourself to live from this timeless state, you stop reinforcing delay and begin aligning with immediate possibility. This doesn't mean physical reality stops obeying its processes. Plants will still take time to grow, seasons will still turn, but your experience of waiting transforms. You no longer feel trapped by the clock. You begin to sense that your desired future is already present in the field, and that every observation you make is a step into that reality. Here's a profound idea that changes everything. When you observe reality, you are not looking at something separate from yourself. You are actually consciousness observing itself through the mirror of the physical world. The observer and the observed are not two different entities. They are two faces of the same awareness. This is why spiritual teachers throughout history have described life as a dream or a projection. Just like a dreamer forgets they are the source of the dream while immersed in it, you forget that reality is being projected from your own field of consciousness. The moment you begin to remember this, the way you observe changes. Observation is no longer passive. It becomes a reunion with your own infinite nature. Think of reality like a hall of mirrors. Every situation you encounter, every person you meet, every challenge you face, these are reflections of patterns within you. When you observe them, you're not just watching the world, you're watching yourself. This is why resistance to external circumstances often creates more struggle. You're fighting with your own reflection. But when you shift the way you observe with compassion, curiosity, or acceptance, the reflection shifts accordingly. This is the hidden beauty of the observer effect. It's not about controlling reality like a puppet master. It's about recognizing that the puppet and the master are the same consciousness. The field doesn't need to be forced. It needs to be remembered. And when you remember, reality naturally reorganizes to reflect your deeper awareness. There's also a subtle layer to this interaction. The universe has its own intelligence. It's not just a blank screen waiting for input. It's a co-creator, a living consciousness meeting you halfway. Your observation is like a question, and reality responds with an answer. Sometimes the answer is immediate, sometimes delayed, but it always comes. The more skillfully you pose your questions through coherent observation, the clearer the universe's responses become. This understanding can dissolve feelings of loneliness or separation. You realize you've never been observing out there alone. The field is alive, responsive, and intimate. Every synchronicity is a wink from consciousness itself. Every shift in energy is a reminder. You and the universe are playing the same game, from two sides of the same awareness. When you deeply grasp this, observation transforms into dialogue. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and begin asking, "What is this reflection showing me about myself?" In this way, challenges become teachers, and reality becomes a feedback system for your own expansion. The ultimate goal isn't to master the observer effect as a technique. It's to awaken to the truth that you are the field itself. The one who observes, the act of observing, and the reality observed are all expressions of a single consciousness, dancing with itself in infinite forms. At the deepest level, observation is not just about reacting to reality. It's about designing reality before it unfolds. When you hold a clear, coherent image in your awareness, you are creating what could be called a template in the quantum field. This template is like an architectural blueprint. It doesn't immediately build the house, but it establishes the design so that the physical world can organize itself around it. Think about how an architect first visualizes a building. Long before the foundation is poured, the idea exists in drawings, models, and computer renderings. Those plans are refined again and again until they perfectly capture the vision. Only then do the builders begin their work. Similarly, your focused observation carves a plan into the field, giving reality the instructions it needs to build your desired experiences. The mistake many people make is treating observation as a quick wish or fleeting desire. They set an intention once, then move on without reinforcing the template. Imagine if an architect drew a vague sketch on a napkin and handed it to the builders, what would happen? Confusion, errors, or an incomplete structure. The same is true with manifestation. If your template is unclear or unstable, the field doesn't have enough coherence to replicate it. So how do you create strong templates? Consistency of focus, return to the vision often. Each observation strengthens the template, like carving grooves deeper into wood until the pattern is undeniable. Emotional imprint. Infuse the vision with powerful feelings. Emotions are the ink that makes the blueprint visible to the field. A vision without emotion fades, but a vision drenched in gratitude, joy, or awe becomes radiant and magnetic. Embodied alignment. Live as if the template is already active. Speak, act, and make choices in alignment with the reality you are designing. This consistency tells the field, this is not a wish, it's the operating program. As you reinforce these templates, you'll notice life shifting to meet them. New opportunities, people, and experiences begin to show up, not randomly, but as exact matches to what you've imprinted. And here's the real key. You don't need to micromanage how the template manifests. The quantum field has infinite intelligence, often arranging outcomes in ways more creative and efficient than you could imagine. By creating templates in the field, you're no longer just navigating reality, you're authoring it. The observer effect becomes more than an experiment in physics. It becomes a path to conscious living. You stop drifting with the tide of unconscious observation and instead become the architect of your destiny. In the end, this is the hidden promise of the observer effect, to awaken you to your role as both participant and creator. Every thought is a brushstroke, every feeling a color, every observation a deliberate act of creation. And when you choose to observe with clarity, coherence, and love, you discover the truth. Reality has always been your canvas, and you have always been the artist. When you release the illusion of time, you release the illusion of limitation. And in that release, your observation becomes a key not just to shifting outcomes, but to experiencing reality as a boundless, interconnected whole.